Please silence your phones and stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any additional agenda items to be added? I have none. Okay. I need a motion on the consent agenda.
We approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second,
I'll second that.
motion made and second, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move down to public comments. Citizens may address the council on items that may or may not be on the subject meeting agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The council reserves the right to limit the number of speakers pertaining to the same topic in the interest of the meeting efficiency and expediency. Do we have any public comments?
I will, yep. So, Mike McGowan, 435 Mountain View. I've spent since the last meeting looking at the documents that the town has produced and that others have produced about the Tri-Cities project.
Yeah.
And I have two concerns that I'd like to share. And I know it's on the agenda for today, so maybe if I share them now, it'll be something we can talk about when we get to the items. The first one is, after reading all the materials and attending the meetings and listening to the comments, I feel like what we're doing with this project is expanding the scope of government. And the materials say that. They say that, we intend to expand the scope of the government, and we're going to get more funds through grants and whatever. But I also feel like we in Lakeview have done pretty well at keeping our government small, and I feel like the majority of the voters here feel like we should have a good, tight government, but a small one. And so I have a question about whether it's appropriate to expand our government. And an example of expanding it will be that, the proposal includes spending, I know it's the Tri-City Consortium, but spending something like $750,000 on paving equipment, and in effect being in the paving business. And, I'm a capitalist. I don't think government has a business purpose. I think government needs to do the things like public schools and public safety and water and the sorts of things that government normally does. I don't see our government as being involved in a paving business. I understand that the objective is to lower costs, but still that's a private matter. And I think we could do better if the 3 or 4 or 11 or however many governments get together and bid together. We can bring the cost down because we can increase the volume of business to private paving companies. So that's point number one. And point number two about the Tri-Cities, I hope we talk a little bit about transparency, because the way I understand it, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like y'all, meaning the mayor and the 4 council people, are outsourcing your responsibilities. You're going to sign on to an arrangement that has a managing director and a board that you no longer control. So if, hopefully that would go well, but if it doesn't go well, as a voter, as a citizen in Lakeview, who am I going to look to? The guy who's running that business, and it will be a business, the guy who's running that business doesn't answer to me or anybody in town, he answers to the board. And the board is going to have X number of board members, and we're just going to be 1 or maybe 2. And so we're not going to control the board. And if that organization, that Tri-Cities, does something that we don't agree, our only option is to vote no, but we can be outvoted. And so what do? Then we quit?
I think that's what they call a recall. I think you could recall any of us at any time if you didn't like what we were doing, right?
But
couldn't you?
Absolutely, it's happened before, right?
Huh?
It's happened before, not town council, but it has happened here before. But that doesn't solve the problem, Jay. So if you belong to the organization, you read the contract says the board votes and the majority decides what the organization is doing. If we don't like it, they've got our money, we can exit, we lose our money and we're still on the hook for what's decided. We can only exit on one day a year. So I feel like, there's an accountability and a transparency issue that we really need to think carefully about. It's a good idea to collaborate and save money, but I think, doing that by joint bidding is what that legislation is about. And what's being proposed is a new entity, and it's going to be big, and it's going to have expenses, and I don't think it's a great idea. Before you came, we had two policing entities. We had Lake County Sheriffs, and we had Lakeview Police. And there was a lot of discussion about efficiencies and do we need two agencies or could one agency do it well? And I have to say, I think, it's been 3 or 4 years now, seems like, we've reduced from two agencies to one. And I think Sheriff Taylor's done a reasonably good job with the budget materials he has available. And we've, shrunk our government down a little bit. And I think this is going in the opposite direction. And it's a concern, so thank you.
Okay. Any more public comments? Okay, hearing none. Let's move on down to the nuisance complaint, Patty Newton.
So, right, I'm Patty Newton and Dave, and we live on the 500 block of North J Street. And actually, I had a lot of my concerns addressed just before the meeting. Thank you very much for that. But there's more than just, so we came for an update. We wanted to know where we were with the nuisance. We have neighbors on North J Street who are, and it's not just one, who are they live in dire circumstances. We have a lot of compassion for that, but we also are tired of the trash on the street, blows in front of our house. We're tired of the violence that happens next door quite often. That's a whole nother issue. And would like to see what else we can do besides turning in pictures of what we think are the nuisance ordinance violations. So we went to the county commissioners meeting, and they were having an item on the agenda. It was for the nuisance, and so we thought, well, that must have something to do with us, and we were told there it doesn't, that it's the town thing, and that there probably wasn't going to be, or they had not been successful in having meetings that came to a good conclusion. And I understand now that, you've since met with them, but we were directed to come here. And so here we are, just wanting to know, what can we do, if anything? Do we keep being the voice that's, complaining all the time? We don't like doing that either. Is there a way we can help? Is there a way we can help our neighbors? I don't know. Like I said, it's not just one, it's not just two. There are a number of them
So
around.
getting back to your complaints, I know Dave and I have had some discussions on Facebook about barking dogs. And until you complain enough, the cops, every time there's a complaint, that gets put into the record, and so it builds a case file against all that stuff. And I hate to say that you have to be the squeaky wheel, but sometimes the squeaky wheel is what you guys have to do to just keep.
Well, we have been,
And that's appreciated
unfortunately,
because
you know us now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the best way you can go about,
Facebook,
Dawn,
Yeah.
that seemed to work the
Yeah.
first time, but
Me and Michelle are working on.
they're working on it right now.
Right. And so we did get that information. As I said, we were just simply directed here. And, I know that we're not the only ones. There are other people. And we have a property that we've had to build high fences all around because it's just not safe at times. So
Yeah.
please do what you can. If you can get a nuisance situation going, somebody who can address those, it would be much appreciated.
So is there a code enforcement issue that's a part of the nuisance problem?
there's a code enforcement officer that's been hired by the county, yes.
Would that resource be available to address some of the, I mean, if there's trash, that's certainly a code.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what all the, the issues are, but I'm sure that the nuisance officer could definitely be somebody to.
Additional, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something to try.
We
Code
did,
Well, we did.
We're going to say.
we're working on it.
They
We're
don't,
working on
they
a code
don't
enforcement.
work with it in the town. And that's something. Does our current ordinance though prohibit trash trailers on the street?
Well, it does,
So-
because, we've had a problem over the years, obviously, but, I don't know what, I haven't talked to Dawn about what she's done, but I think the first step, if she hasn't done it.
There will be actions taken Tuesday.
Write a
It's as
letter
much,
and,
no,
and
this will be-
impose the ordinance also.
this will be this action will be taken with law enforcement. And I will be there Tuesday with law enforcement.
Can I add that, after reading the ordinance, it seems like it could be strengthened a little bit more. It's a little bit loophole-y. It's not just a travel trailer, they shouldn't have trash, yeah.
Yes.
And one person's trash is another's treasure, apparently.
No,
Not necessarily.
But trash is trash.
I know, a mattress on the front yard is trash.
yeah. And the kids sliding down it.
And if there's violence, you need to call 911.
We do.
Oh.
Okay.
That's too bad.
Appreciate your help with the dogs.
Yep.
That helps a lot.
And we don't know what we don't know, so it's, until it's brought to our attention, then, we can't do anything about it.
Okay, move on down to MC Chuck Wagon exhibit, Bev.
All right, I'm Bev Hills, I'm the local manager for the Western Heritage and MC Chuck Wagon exhibit. And, wow, big title. I want to thank you all for putting lowering the flag to half staff last year when Jack Nickel passed away. That was very sweet. And thank you also for everything you do down there, everything. I mean, there's lots and it doesn't quit. I know, you know. What we've got going on right now is Mark Nickel, Jack's son, wants to put a tribute to Jack, who donated the exhibit to the town of Lakeview. He wants to put a little tribute out in the lawn, and I don't know if you have a picture of that, Dawn?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, good. That's just an example. That was taken up at Sun River, and Mark said that they're thinking about doing more like maybe 2 boulders because there will be 2 plaques. But the bronze plaque actually does have a colored picture on it, and how it will withstand the sunlight, I don't know. But we need the approval to put the tribute on the property. And Amy, Jack's niece, already has contacted some folks who can do the bronze plaques. And the plans are for Will Cahill to bring a boulder or 2, and they're talking about 2.5 feet, so it'll be a little bit bigger than that. And we talked about, and also Mark said he thought that putting a concrete pad under it was a good idea. And he didn't, after I mentioned to him that if you put it in the northwest part, the real skinny part of the lawn, you probably don't need trees behind it because there's already nice landscaping right behind that, and he thought that was okay. So, that's about it. We just need the
I think this
okay.
is great myself. I really like that idea. Council agree?
You need to make a motion.
I move we grant the Nichols family permission to put an honorary plaque on the McCuck exhibit.
Okay, great.
Motion made, second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
And one other thing, I had mentioned in the agenda form I filled out that we would be, working on, reception for receiving the Bill Kitt saddle. And, so far the plans haven't been finished on that. We don't know what's going on with that, so I'll have to talk to you about that later if I need to. Will had mentioned that they were trying to coordinate with the chamber and Elks to try to find the right date. And I know there's other big things going on this coming summer, so
Family's very busy.
yeah. So anyway, I'll talk to you about that later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Counselor, did you want to mention to Bev about the ceiling on MC Chuck Wagon?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, who does the maintenance on that?
The what?
The maintenance on the building?
We put Thompson's on the boardwalk last year.
Okay, I was just there, I happened to be at Schwab's one day and they're changing the tires and that boardwalk, it just needs to have water seal put on it every
Yeah.
year, cause it'll,
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
splinters and it just takes a beating in this
We've
weather.
done it the last couple summers, so we continue.
Yeah, and so far you guys have been doing the maintenance. We used to have the fire department hose the building down once or twice a year, and I told them not to because we had some issues. I think some water was getting up inside the wall and pulling the mural off the wall. So I asked them not to, and so far it's been pretty good. Rob Thornton said you have to wash it down it'll keep the paint better, but it's been maybe 3 years, and I think the paint's holding up pretty well. I go around and do some touch-ups once in a while, but it's pretty low maintenance, so thank you for that.
Okay, let's move on down, Irish Day proclamation. Whereas Irish heritage has played an important role in the history of the town of Lakeview and will be an important aspect of our future, and whereas St. Patrick's Day is the time of year to celebrate our Irish heritage, and whereas Irish Day is the annual local celebration of Irish heritage. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the town of Lakeview that March 11th through March 18th, 2022 be proclaimed of Irish heritage, and be it further proclaimed that residents, friends, and visitors are invited and encouraged to participate in the various community events. And may the leprechauns be near you to spread luck along your way. Okay, I'll sign that one.
You have to have a motion.
Pardon?
You have to have a motion on those.
Can I?
I'll make a motion that we approve the proclamation.
I've never had a
I
motion.
don't think a proclamation,
Okay.
well, you're just doing it.
Okay, well, all right, have a motion on this proclamation?
No, we're good then.
Okay,
good, we're good.
all right, I have one more.
Yep.
This one's a little longer. Proclamation National Telecommunicator Week. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that requires police, fire, emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical technicians is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters and emergency medical technicians is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Lakeview Emergency Services Department 911 Center, and whereas the public safety telecommunicator is the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas the public safety telecommunicator is the single vital link to where police officers, firefighter, and emergency medical technicians, by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them with information to ensure their safety, and whereas the Public Safety Telecommunicator of Lakeview Emergency Services Department 911 Center has contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, therefore be it proclaimed by the town of Lakeview that the town of Lakeview declares the week of April 10th through April 16th, 2022 to be National Telecommunicator Week in Lakeview in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keeps our country and citizens safe. Okay, we'll move on down to Lake County Code Enforcement, Michelle.
Thank you. So, council, I met with the commissioners. I was on the agenda for their work session for the code enforcement. Prior to meeting with the commissioners, I met with the code enforcement officer, Jason, about how it might look if the town decided to go in with the commissioners on the code enforcement. So, the commissioners have asked for a 34% from the town, 34% of the salary, and then we would receive 34% of his time. And how that figures out is that's 4 months out of the year that the code enforcement officer would be dedicated to the town. So I asked, I was messing with the commissioners a little bit, and so I asked for April, May, June, and July. They about fell off their chair.
I won't go by that.
They didn't bite. So what I suggested was that we have the code enforcement officer work 1 day doing code enforcement and then an administrative day each week. Which is equatable to the 34% that we would be buying. But what it's come down to is this is a program that the county is building from the bottom up. It's the first time they've done it, they're learning along the way, and Commissioner Albertson was worried that if the town came on board with 34%, that it would take away from what the county needed to get done. So I was a little surprised at that. I offered to pay, maybe we go into an agreement that it could potentially be a 3-year agreement where the town on the first year pays 10%, second year 20%, and third year 30%. I don't know, I told him I couldn't tell one way or the other because it is up to you what you want to do. In addition, I called the city manager of Birds, Dan Brown. They have a code enforcement officer. And I asked if the code enforcement officer would be, if the town could have that code enforcement officer come down each month for a week and work in their team. And he was very open to that. Although right now their code enforcement officer's out because he got chased by a dog and he tore his ACL muscle. So we wouldn't be able to even have the conversation until April-ish, and we could begin having him do code enforcement in May. So there's a couple of options for you to choose from. Going with the code enforcement officer with Birds would be a little bit less expensive for the town because we wouldn't be paying for his PERS and all the tail end of his salary. We just be paying for him hourly. So if you wanna go with the commissioners, great. Let me know how you want that to go. If you wanna go with, as a collaborative agreement with, Burns, we can go that way, or we can hire somebody.
So with the Burns one, are they gonna be actually physically staying here every week,
Yes.
or are they driving back and forth?
No, they would stay here,
And then we would be on the hook for all of our DM expenses.
that's correct.
So, say we did a 34% thing. And the guy does Christmas Valley and he does Paisley and he writes up 10 tickets. So three to four of them should be ours, right?
That would be
That's an easy way to,
statistically, yes.
that's an easy way to figure it. I mean, if they did three or four, and if he wasn't doing that, then we'd have some kind of recourse if we put that in the contract, right?
That's correct. It's my supposition that we have weather, inclement weather during our winter months. So in a calendar year, January 1st to December 31st, I think we would have, January, February, March would be low ticketing times, as well as October, November, December. Road conditions,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. So the bulk of the work is gonna be done during those 4 months that I asked for. But I think that it's a tricky thing. It's gonna be tricky because he may get overwhelmed and coming on board and having the town say we want 30% right now, and I have 20 properties for him to go to. And to get
Well, we
done.
wouldn't get that. We'd only get 3 or 4. So you wouldn't be too overwhelmed, I wouldn't think.
That is the fear of the commissioners.
Oh, really? Do they not want a partner then anymore?
I think they want a partner at 10, 20, 30.
When you say 34%, like, I'd like to know what the cost is, like,
So,
amounts.
I understood
And
that we were
$34,000.
working from $125,000 a year salary, and we would be paying 34% of that salary.
Right.
Which is,
That's it, that's
42.
including PERS and all the insurance and all that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that works out to be a dollar amount of $42,500. Although the commissioners said the number is different, but they didn't say what it was. So I don't know, I'm working off what the information was that we had before. So it may be lower, it may be more like 36. I'm guessing.
It's usually 100,000 you figure per employee, but
There's also vehicle expenses and
Yeah.
all that.
He's got a vehicle, office space.
never thought about that.
All that kind of stuff, fuel.
So it's a big problem, it's been a big problem and it's getting bigger. And it's not good. So something needs to be done, how it gets done is up to you.
A combination of both of them might be a good solution for now. I mean, honestly, if we're doing 10% with the county and then maybe use the person that Burns maybe 1 week or every month or every other month even, just so we got something moving forward with the code enforcement.
But then you look at the running of what this code enforcement officer did with this one.
Which reminds me, so the county has updated their ordinances, number 116, and I think it's 39. I think that what we should do as a town is come close to what their ordinance is, so we're in sync, so that it's not like we're out here and they're over here. So we need to redo our ordinances, and I have those to start to match them, so that's on my plate for next week to do, and then get the dog ordinance out and then get them so we're the same.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it would be difficult for the code enforcement officer from Burns to shift gears to come to Lakeview because the towns are very similar. They're in the same region somewhat. even though we're different counties, we're in the rural frontier region of Oregon. But certainly I don't think it's gonna be a hard curve to learn. So if you guys wanna do like a 10% with the commissioners, and then while we ramp up to 30, we go into a collaborative agreement with Burns, I'll make that happen.
I like that idea.
I like
think
the
we need
idea,
to
but
talk
I'd like to
about
see a breakdown of all the expenses
in
that
executive
are
session.
involved in it. You know,
Okay.
because
So I
we've
think we
got
need to talk about this.
two different entities there to.
Okay, so I'll get a breakdown of what you're paying for. And then the ordinances.
In the
And-
meantime, can Sheriff Taylor go out and take care of Patty?
Take care of me.
I that's what we're doing on Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
We're
Tuesday
going
we'll,
Tuesday to do it.
Tuesday we're going to Patty's house to say, no,
We'll show them.
right.
Point you to a couple.
I think that's
So I'll work
Yep.
on,
That one too.
I'll work on getting that.
600.
So we need to have an executive session
To
to
start.
discuss the, all that, or do we- once you get it all figured out?
I'll figure it out. I don't know, I'll ask, but I do like that there's a solution on the horizon, like the near horizon, instead of like going year after year, like we're gonna do. And then again, this year in June, the town will be putting out trash bins like we did last year, so we're gonna do a full court press.
Sorry, I just have one question. When you're talking about code enforcement, but you're not talking about animals at all, right?
Oh, that's a
That's a-
different ordinance.
That's different.
It's different. Yeah, and we're redoing that ordinance as well to follow closely to what's happening in the county, so there's not such a big gap
Yeah, there's
between
no gray
what we're doing.
areas, there was some gray areas between ours and what the county.
So they'll match.
They'll be very similar, yes.
Yes,
I just have a question. I think you've got to be careful bringing somebody from someplace else. You're bringing them from Burns. They're gonna have to take an oath here to be a law enforcement officer. And you're then going to have to be responsible for any
Insurance.
things that they may do. You'll be liable and you'll be responsible. So, I mean, I know that's the same as with the county, but you've got to be careful taking somebody from someplace else and turning them into your law enforcement officer.
So he'll need to be sworn in, but I can get all those details to the council, so that we're super clear about what we're getting into.
If he tears his ACL here, then it's on our insurance, I guess. Or
Right.
we would have the liability,
Right.
so that's the thing to worry about.
Yeah, when he's here, he'll be a Lakeview Town employee, he won't be a Burns Town employee, he'll be a Lakeview Town employee.
And he's already certified to be a nuisance officer. That's what he does in Burns. So he can write tickets. I have to literally go with the sheriff's office and they write the ticket and I have to sign it. That's all I am legally able to do.
And then you've got to also, I'm sorry, but you've also got to, once those tickets come in, if somebody contests them, that person's gonna have to make another trip down here too. So you may be spending a lot more for somebody from someplace else coming down here than you would with the person that's here.
Too many unknowns,
The ordinance
too many
officer-
unknowns.
Yeah.
The ordinance officer makes the court dates. So he can set the court date of when his next time back in Lakeview is.
So would it?
Well, the court,
I'm sorry, would it be more like that you could do a contract with them instead, that way they are a Burns employee and not? Yeah.
We'll get all the i's and dotted and the t's, and if the council doesn't want me to go figure that out, I won't.
no, I wanna see that,
I think we need to look at it.
we've got to do something,
Okay.
And Michelle,
doing
isn't
something better
this
than
just an
nothing.
interim thing until we can get built
Well,
into
it
our
would be-
budget, our own code officer? Isn't that the kind of the long-term plan is to have our own person here?
Well, there's several options. The first option is to do 10%, 20%, 30% with the commissioners, which would be 3 years. And in that first and second year, we could fill the gap with a Burns contract. That's as far as I've gotten. So I don't know how you wanna structure it after year 3. Maybe it becomes a yearly contract with the county because they'll have built their system. I don't know.
Or maybe something along through it that we won't need the guy out of Burns.
Or we end up hiring somebody to be a town employee, I don't know.
That's something maybe you guys can have a work session on and discuss.
Yeah.
I think we need to get it all together and then have a work session. Discuss it more and make some decisions.
Yeah, wasn't there, sorry, somebody's been here longer than I have, but didn't the county have a code enforcement officer some years ago, a woman? So, I mean, they're not starting absolutely
She didn't
from.
last.
I understand that, Mayor, but I thought that they might have policies and procedures that were in place when they did have a code enforcement officer that they could build on,
It was my understanding that they're building from the ground up,
starting fresh.
correct?
I see.
Although it was recorded and you can go watch it at the Lake County Examiner, I may have misunderstood, but that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, when you think about the courthouse and the employees, it's all new set of commissioners just in the last few years.
That's true, yeah.
You know, they don't know what's happening.
Although the personnel, I don't know, there might be some institutional memory there on the documents about policies and procedures, and there also might be some resources available at the state level, League of Counties and so on, for this sort of position that they could use to get jump-started.
Well, I'll gather all the information, we'll do a work session and we'll work to get
Okay.
it.
That sounds good. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Lake Hospital road closure request for daily days. They wanna close from F Street to E Street on Center for, food vendors and for other vendors to set up.
Susie's here, right?
Oh,
If you want
good.
to go with
Go ahead,
me.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm Susie Philbeck. I'm new actually to Lakeview, been here like a little over a month. So, and I work as the executive assistant to Charlie at the hospital. I'm in charge of daily days, which is June 25th this year. With it being still in COVID times, we haven't had to deal with daily days during COVID because it's been canceled the past couple years. We wanted to move it to a more public location, not only for the COVID restrictions, so we can spread out a little bit more and not bringing guests through the hospital. So that's why we're kind of moving it downtown. Plus, it is also the 100th anniversary of the Bernard Daily Scholarship, so it's a little bit bigger every year. So we want to make sure we have a good presence within all the festivities going on that weekend. And we are doing that Memorial Hall and spilling out into the courtyard, and just having that one Center Street road shut down would help for any exhibits coming in for fire rescue, any of the other exhibits that used to be outside the hospital. And because we used to offer food, maybe we're looking at inviting a couple food trucks in for, the participants and attendees to the fair to like to eat and promote also the food trucks here in town and in the county.
Have you, probably should get hold of the commissioners so they can let them know what else to move their county vehicles?
I'll work with them on that, yes.
Yeah, because they have several parked on the Center Street.
Okay.
And then, have you talked to the sheriff at all about it?
No, we figured we'd find out whether or not we can actually get the roads, and then we'll start doing all the steps. We're just had our first meeting a couple weeks ago, so we're just now in the beginning planning stages, and we need to know how much space we have to plan with. So that kind of impacts who we invite and what type of stuff we can bring in. So figured you guys are the first spot to make sure we have space.
And then we're going into the vendors and the proper procedures of, it's notifying the sheriff's office and, whatever needs to be done once we're approved.
Council, I need a motion.
I move that we approve the Lake District Hospital's request to put, to block one block during daily days for 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not 24 hours,
No.
12 hours.
Depends on the weather.
Motion made, second.
Fingers crossed, it's gonna be beautiful out.
Yes, well,
Okay.
we've seen it all.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you very much.
Shannon,
You see. Business Oregon loan, L 22003. Michelle?
So it's been a while and I didn't know I had to do this, so, this is just closing the gap. We have been approved for, 911. The loan amount is $300,092 and $924 at a 1% interest rate for the new equipment at 911. And that's what this is saying, is that we're going to do that.
How much was the loan?
$392,924. So really, we don't need to do number 11. I'm just looking to do number 12 to say that it's okay for us to move forward.
Yeah, okay.
How long does it take to pay that back?
Well, that's an interesting question. We have another loan out at a higher interest rate that's around the same amount that I would like to pay off in our next budget cycle. And then to pay this off as soon as possible because it's at a 1% interest rate. I'd like to get it paid off in the next couple of years.
I mean, that's possible. So 5 years maybe?
Yeah. That's the goal.
Okay. So I need a motion on the ordinance number 875.
I'll make a motion to, go ahead.
I think we have to, do this as, wait, I'm not looking at here. Yeah, no, it's 875, so every week. 875, this one here. Okay, I'm sorry.
No. You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to, approve, moving forward with ordinance 875 for the one.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And
Bye,
we're
guys.
still
Hi,
gonna,
thank you.
You bet.
we're still gonna keep working on the commissioners to take some of this 911.
Yes, I
Meeting
have to
Friday.
be there on Friday. With,
That'll make Lakeview a little smaller, is trying to, get out of 911.
Yeah, or share, or at least share the
Share
the
the
burden, yeah.
one up there. Okay.
Yeah, that meeting is happening this Friday. There are 40 people who I've invited. We'll have a large group on Friday. I'm gonna follow it up with another meeting exactly the same the following week, and another one exactly the same the week after, so that everybody can attend.
Perfect.
And the goal is to find a solution of, how what the formula is, because
Figure that out. At least it's starting.
Sorry.
We've been working on it, it's just starting to get bigger now.
Good job, Grace.
All right, ordinance 876, which is Lakeview Transportation System Plan.
So this is our transportation plan. If you wanna read through it real quickly, you can.
451 pages of it. You have that.
It
Um,
is available online.
yeah, I've tapped what
Thanks to Sheila.
what is, plans for changing, and, I did receive an email from Senator Merkley, and Senator Wyden, that they have, 2023 congressional money for, projects just like this. So I'm super excited that I just get to rip out a page and send it to them. So, unless it doesn't get passed, and then I'm in big trouble.
Alright. We have a motion on ordinance 876.
I move we vote on ordinance 876, an ordinance repealing the existing transportation system plan and adopting an updated transportation system plan as a transportation element of the Town of Lakeview Comprehensive Plan.
I'll second what she said.
Motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay. We're going down to the regional rural revitalization. Michelle?
Yes, sir. All right, so, I met with the other town managers, and, one of the things that I felt and that Burns also felt was that we needed to slow down a little, and so I would like to have a work session about R3. So that people can come and ask more questions, and address, issues that are fuzzy, and so that we can work together to, get it right, instead of having some, unknown and tension and not really understanding what we're trying to accomplish. Part of what, I wanted to do was give an FAQ to some of the questions that were coming through my inbox. It doesn't address all of them, but it does address some of them. And I think from my understanding, and it sounds like from the community, it needs to be clearer within the contractual agreement that we have, that we're not trying to put people out of business, we're not trying to grow government, we're actually trying to optimize it so that we can move through the systems more nimbly. For example, John Day has accomplished 3 times bringing broadband into John Day. I've not ever done it. It's a super, super, super complicated system, and it would take me years to get through it. By bringing in R3 to access and leverage that knowledge from John Day to get broadband to come through to Lakeview is something I find to be very useful. It doesn't mean that John Day owns the broadband from Lake County border, it means Lakeview and the county who we've been talking to would own the fiber. But to me, that would expedite a grant process application, because John Day's already done it not once, but twice, but 3 times. And so they know what to say, they know that he's got the connections and the networking, so it would go faster, go through the system faster and have a higher chance of approval. But it sounds to me like it needs to be cleared up in a better way. So I would like to, so this is gonna go on your website. I would hope that people would continue to email me questions so that I can address them or I can bring them to you to address. And that I'll have them available for the work session.
And that page will be live tomorrow, like afternoon-ish.
So what I'd like to do is set up a work session for next week, Tuesday, March 15th, if you're available. If you're not, when's the next time we can get together for a work session?
Next week, Tuesday.
Yeah, next week, Tuesday, 4 o'clock.
The 15th.
Correct.
I have a question. Would it be, since a lot of this is driven by the successes in John Day, would it be helpful, and since it's expected, I think, that Nick Green will play a meaningful role in the collaboration, would it be helpful to have him there as a resource so he could, answer questions and, supplement, your presentations, or?
Yes, he will be there and Dan Brown will be there.
Nice, okay, perfect.
So, you guys can ask away. Our intention is that we do want that transparency.
Yeah.
And, we do want to answer all the questions. We do want the community to be involved with it so that this is a good deal. Like,
Yep.
that the idea is good, but the execution is good as well.
Is Green the lawyer for John Day?
Jeremy Green, yes,
Jeremy
Yes.
Green,
Is the lawyer for Burns?
yes.
and Lakeview.
Well, I think that, and this was brought up before, but I think you're better off to get somebody other than Green to give, well, let me finish, to give you a legal opinion, because it's a conflict. It's a conflict for somebody who's representing all three towns to come in and answer questions to Lakeview's satisfaction. I mean, I think you've got to be careful about that. You've got to have somebody, I know Ray is rolling his eyes, but you've got to be, and so is Michelle, but you've got to be careful when you're entering into something so significant. And
I don't believe Jeremy would do it if it wasn't in the best interest for all three.
The contract itself
yeah,
So-
that's,
says otherwise.
Let me address that
yeah,
question. And to the council, I have found an attorney that is versed in municipal contracts and municipal city law in Medford, and I will be sending the contract over to him for therapy. We have sent it to LOC, and they said this is a great idea. I think John Day sent it out to a third-party attorney, and it came back as, this looks great, but I don't know, but we need to do it for ourselves though. So we'll go ahead and spend the money to get that contract looked at by a non-emotional party that has no gain or loss to the project.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
that's a good one.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on. Camera at the shooting range.
Did we set the work session date? I'm sorry.
March 15th, 4 o'clock, does that work?
4 o'clock? I can be there for sure, but I can be there for 4.
Does that work for everybody?
It works for me.
Okay, goody. For those of you who can't make it in real life, we'll have it online as well. So you can, if you gotta work, you can double time multitask. Thank you. Oh, we bought cameras. Sorry. It's been a long day. We bought cameras. Are they still down at Public Works?
No, I haven't.
Are you gonna put them up sometime? Okay.
Well, Jeff and I have got a couple places up there, we need to put them up, there where people are dumping garbage. So
Okay.
try to catch the
Okay,
people that are dumping garbage.
You gonna hide 'em?
No, we're gonna put them right out in the
Right out
open
there
so
in
they
the
can
open so
steal
they
them
can
right
see
after
'em.
they're
So
done
they
dumping
can
garbage.
I'm so sorry. This has been on the agenda and I just haven't done follow through, so that's why I put it on there to say we need to get the cameras up.
I'll be working with Jeff probably next week
Thank you.
on getting those put up, so
What are we hoping to accomplish with the cameras?
License plate numbers of who's dumping
People
garbage,
dumping garbage?
yeah, so we can turn them into the sheriff's department.
Did we talk
What
about
if
it
they
once
shoot the
before about
cameras
people
out?
that were shooting things?
You hide them in the tree, they're like a game camera.
Or
I
if we
think
could
you
hide
may
them
be
together?
surprised what we pick up.
Yeah.
There might be
Motion
some
sensor,
things
battery
we don't know
operated.
about.
They're pretty cool, they're only like this big, and they're camouflage.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Public Works, Special Projects.
Alright, handicap parking signs to replace the 15-minute parking signs at Howard Drugs.
Okay, this was old business for a couple weeks, I just wanted to bring it
Yeah,
up.
we talked about it, not putting it in the same spot, we talked about moving it up to the first space there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that the corner finished, but we can't really paint that on the ground when it's wet or when it's freezing at night, so we're kind of at the mercy of when it gets warm enough to do that. You know, it's a paint and a sign, so, we can do away with the 15-minute one anytime, but,
Yeah, Jeff was wanting that one to go away.
yeah. I wonder why.
I don't know, he said it's been there since they moved in and he didn't, there was no reason.
I mean, no one enforces it. I mean,
I mean, nobody pays
You'd think
ever
attention.
since like that.
Stay 15 minutes, you know, so somebody that's working across the street or someplace wouldn't park there, but we sure get rid of that, but it has to be warm enough to paint the ground, not wet, so.
Okay, let's move on to go department monthly reports, town manager.
Okay, so, we're on our last tranche for the COPS grant. So I'll be looking for another grant, so we don't have to.
Go out this door here. Thanks, sorry.
Then, Public Works is going to be looking for a water treatment facility and systems director, so that when the water system comes online, we have the certification of someone who knows how to operate the system, because it's gonna be kinda complicated.
They have to be a certified operator by the state in order to run the water plant.
So I found a tiny bit of money in our bike and trail fund. And I have asked Special Projects and Public Works to start fixing Surreptitious Park, like kind of grade the parking lot there. And put some pebble, gravel.
Fix the bridge.
Fix the bridge, fix
Fix
the fence.
the fence.
The fence, and then all the way around the track.
Yeah.
My
Actually,
feet will
Sandy,
Yes,
you do a lot of walking in that park, if you could put a list together that help us, honestly. Of
well,
things
that list is, those are the, kind of the main things, cause the fence is
Yeah,
a disgrace.
I was down there today and I looked at, there's a lot of thickets down there that are kind of scary looking.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm
there
not sure
are.
it's the best way to get
I'm
rid of
waiting
all
for
that,
Cooler to
or
come
that
out
has
while they
anything-
have a deer.
if that would have repercussions with, fish and game or anything to take that, there's a lot of,
if they're in
Are you
any,
talking by the stream or in the
right by
track
right
towards
on
the railroad
stream
tracks?
bank, yeah.
Those
50 feet
willows?
wide.
Yes,
They're huge.
I go back to the hospital,
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't go back there anymore because of ticks.
yeah.
Yeah, the deer, you know, sleep in the watershed area and underneath those bushes, and the ticks in the are, yeah.
Right.
I never
Don't-
you
don't-
see what part you did along the stream?
Yeah.
I think that looks cool.
yeah, they did a nice job with that right there by the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah, we hired him to do it.
How much was that? You know?
It was $8,000.
So,
So go in
yeah.
So for about 30 or 40, they could do that whole stream?
Well, there's
I'll
been
give
some
it-
done, the stream is only ours on one side,
Yeah.
right? But,
No, we own both sides of the stream.
pardon?
We own
Stream
both
is,
sides.
yeah,
That's what I meant. do
Over
both
where
sides.
Jay's talking about.
Not at.
Well, and then down by the bridge by the hospital,
Yeah.
that looks like crap.
well, I'll get with Justin at Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and talk with him and see what's gonna be required. There's a whole process to deal with any waterway, in the state of Oregon. If you move more than 50 yards of material, you have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers and have a study done through Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, so it's a process. We were borderline with what we did over there at the school, so Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife let us go ahead and do it.
Well, you know where the bridge is?
Yeah, I know.
That piles up so bad in there,
Mhm.
if we have a flood year,
Mhm.
that it goes all the way to, used to go to Nichols' house and all those houses in there and then into the playground.
Yeah, Michelle and I just talked about it
If that,
when we were working on the school. And what we need to do is come up with a plan of where we wanna start, and then I can start talking with Fish and Wildlife and Army Corps of Engineers on permits. Because
the school
permits,
even wants to put a bridge across there too.
yeah, permits are not easy to get through the Army Corps of Engineers. They can be kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, but I'm willing to do what it takes to move forward with that, because you're exactly right. During a high water season, which we haven't seen in a long time, if we get a high water season, a high water winter, we're gonna have a problem with the way that all these creeks and drainages through town are being grown over and not dealt with. The problem is dealing with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers to get permission to be in there any time of the year. It used to be if it was dry, you could go in and do what you needed to do. It's not that way anymore. So there's a whole pretty lengthy process they gotta go through. And it's, I've been through it before. It's not hard, it's just very time consuming. So we need to come up with a plan with Jeff and I and Michelle and even the council. We need to look at these areas, decide what we're gonna attack first, start going after the permits, because once we get the permits, then we gotta look at the funding and move forward with it. Because it has to be dealt with. It's not gonna get any better, it's gonna get worse the longer we wait.
But the bushes on the side, towards the railroad tracks also, but it's not by the stream, those are pretty thick too. Yeah, probably need thinning out, not destroying, but thinning out.
I'd also like, in addition to Sir Optimus Park, to get the brush, the yucky thing behind the bleachers, to clear that out, because we have people that go behind there in the summertime.
We need to park at the pool, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, at the pool, and they do not so nice things behind there, so I'm trying to eliminate that area of hiding, so I wanted to clearing that out as well, so.
At the Sir Optimus Park, it would be nice if a garbage can could be put down there.
Yeah.
And that, in, I don't know, even like the cemeteries have they have the doggy bags for picking
Oh, yeah.
up. And I think that would also help that, a lot of people may pick up after their dog actually.
Yeah, the dogs are more a nuisance than garbage, because I very rarely, I walk down there probably 3-4 times a week when the weather's nice. And I picked up one water bottle last summer.
Yeah.
There are people that use it, pick up after.
I'm thinking of the garbage bags for the dog.
Yeah.
The people are picking up after their dogs.
For your permitting stuff, the concerns with the deers and the ticks could also be, you can put in there the health concerns, not only for wildlife, but also humans, for Lyme disease and stuff like that can be occurred. So that could be at least something to mention for thinning it out and cleaning it up and stuff.
And also because it's a watershed, you can't spray.
Right,
You can't spray there, so the only solution is to trim.
Yeah.
And there's a health and safety issue, there's a natural spray process that cannot happen because of the watershed.
Right.
So therefore we have to trim severely, and I think that
Well, we did that for the school, because the bank was eroding away and the kids were escaping under the fence.
right.
So when we did that for the school, I spent quite a bit of time with Justin with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and we talked about
I've seen that.
the different ways that this has to be handled.
Yes.
And he's willing to work with us and help us through the process also.
Maybe if the hospital wrote a letter, it's a health and safety issue or
Okay,
concern.
let's move on.
Right,
Yeah.
so we get a
I
grant.
do.
Okay,
We're hiring at 911 for dispatchers only, so there's job descriptions out on the web and in the paper. Dawn and I are going up to the pool next week, and we're gonna clean everything out of the lobby so that they can do sheetrocking up there. I ordered all of the splash pad equipment, and have the building plans and working with the state to get approval there. The commissioners are reviewing the MOU for the North Water Extension, and they should be getting that back to me. On April 12th, which is our town council meeting, it's gonna be a special one because we're going to have Amber, who has been doing all of our water testing present the findings of all the water and have the community available to ask her questions about what it all means. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's going to be a really nice one. I'm hoping that I'll be able to have Anderson Perry available as well, who we are working with on our water treatment facility, so the community can ask questions there too. We sent out a letter of support for LCP to do some, to apply for a Main Street grant.
That was nice.
And that's my report.
Okay. Jesse had to leave, but I've got his fire report here. They've been doing training with Thomas Creek West Side. They've issued, 3 Lakeview rural, burn permits, none for local. They've had 2 special events, 1 false alarm, 2 agency assists, and 3 structure fires for the month of February. Okay, 911 report. Non-emergency calls, they've had 5598. Emergency 911, 1182. Radio calls was 5424. Total calls for service was 12,204. Year to date, they've had 22,975 calls. Total calls for service in 2021 was 9,551. Quite a jump. Public Works, Jeff.
Sure, we had a real small month last month for water usage. It was pretty typical for this time of year, but it's even a smaller amount than normal, 15 million gallons. Of that, 1,700,000 came from the spring for the month, which is, we're usually increasing the spring flows by now. I guess it still froze up pretty hard up there. And the other 13.5 million came from well 7 exclusively. We're on almost the same path as last year for our irrigation water. The big pond only has 2.1 feet in it. Last year it had 1.9, so pretty comparable. If we don't have a real wet spring, then we're gonna have a very short irrigation season again, which I think a lot of farms and ranches are gonna have that. We spent the bulk of our time last month crack sealing, trimming trees, street sweeping. We've been plagued with problems out at the geothermal, and I'm sure Scott's gonna speak to that, but we made some big improvements out there, put a filter system in, got our flows up, and then the increased flows are gonna have increased other types of problems. So we thought we had it whipped there for a little bit, but now we're getting the increased flow is carrying more sediment, so it's just been never ending out there. Like Michelle mentioned, we have plans to spruce up the Seroptimus Park this coming month. We'll get the bridge, the fence, and grading the roads, the road in and the parking lot. We reached out to PP&L and to Surprise Valley Electric to see if I could get some poles, some used poles to replace the posts that are rotted off. And we'll probably go back with something similar to what was in there before, because only about a quarter of the posts are rotten. So if we could get some different power poles from them, we can cut them off and put back about the same type of fence we have there now. The bridge is structurally sound other than the handrail, so I think we're gonna just rebuild both handrails the same way they were designed. I mean, they lasted, that was put up in '07, the handrails that are on it now, so, 15 years out in the elements, pretty good service. So we'll probably do the same thing, maybe with pressure treated wood rather than just standard wood, so. Michelle got some prices on trimming some trees in the parks, and I think we're gonna probably do quite a bit of tree trimming in-house. We have our boom truck now, so We have some capabilities, we can go up 40 feet, so we can do quite a bit of the smaller trees, and we'll get everything we can take care of in-house and then outsource the higher stuff. And anything that has to be climbed, I don't think anybody wants to see any of my guys climbing a tree. We had a sewer pump failure. We put in our spare sewer pump down on Stock Drive. So we sent the one we pulled out over to be rebuilt. It's gonna be a little bit less than $7,000 to rebuild it. A new pump is, the last one we bought was 3 years ago and it was 17,000. So I think it's money well spent to rebuild the one we took out. That was pretty much, it was a short month, but only thing I have left other than that, I know Mike mentioned it in his questionnaire about replacing the public works director. I've set a date to retire.
That doesn't sound quite right. I was just asking if there was an understudy or
We're
something.
answering one of your questions. I'm planning on working through the end of July of this year.
Okay.
And so we're scrambling to get everybody's credentials up and looking at hiring somebody else in the sewer or in the water treatment area, so.
Split the job up a little bit?
We're gonna restructure things a little bit, yeah. There's just too much, it's a little bit top heavy right now with public works, so we get a little more cross training going. That's about all I have.
Okay, Scott?
Good
question here.
I just wanted to ask, I noticed that the governor declared Klamath County an emergency
Saw that
area, and
yesterday.
it has Lakeview talked to the county commissioners. I assume that Lakeview's in the same boat.
It's gotta be.
No, we were one better. I think Klamath, you mean the drought situation?
Yeah,
Yeah, Klamath was the worst category and we were one better.
which isn't saying much.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least there's resources to apply to the governor for some kind of an
Sure.
emergency assistance
I
on
think
water.
that'd be done on the county level,
But you could talk to the county, right?
certainly, yeah. Yeah, I can share information, for sure.
Okay,
My
Scott?
turn. Water treatment facility. As Michelle said, April 12th is gonna be a big council meeting on that. We should have Anderson Perry here. I've been working with Troy with Anderson Perry to be here on that. He'll go over how we're gonna proceed as far as schedules go, pilot program to make sure we're getting the right equipment in. We're looking at possibly, between the pilot program and the engineering, we probably won't break ground until late this year, depending on weather, possibly 2023 before we break ground. The purpose of the pilot program is to make sure that we're building the correct facility for what we need to treat. So we do a 90-day pilot program with our water. They bring a trailer in with the filtration system that they think we need to do, and that information comes out of our water test. They run a 90-day sample, and then they determine, is this filter gonna work or is this filter gonna work? So there's a process to make sure that we're building the right facility. Lakeview's been let down too many times with bad projects, so we wanna make sure we're headed the right way. And as Michelle said, Amber Hudspeth will be here from Hudspeth Land and Water. She is a scientist out of Bend that specializes in water issues and water problems. She's ran a lot of tests on our water, and she's gonna have a PowerPoint and an explanation of what's in our water, what's going on with our water. So we're headed down the right direction with this filtration system. There'll be a lot more information on the 11th. We should have contracts, hopefully, Michelle, signed
I'm hoping to get the contract
this week.
signed this week.
And then we'll have everything in a business organ early next week. About 60 days after that, we should be funded. And once we get contract signed, we'll be moving because the town has enough money to start the process till we're funded from business organ. So that's where we are with the water project. Other thing on water is we put in for a grant on the short chassis. I'll try that a little better. on a short session for upgrading our water meters to smart meters. So the short session ends Thursday or Friday this week.
It's actually done. It
Last
ended
Friday.
last Friday.
Oh, last Friday, okay. So we should be hearing something whether we got the grant or not here, hopefully within the next week or so. And if we do, we'll move forward with going with smart meters, which will help with the reads, water loss, and Michelle's already talked about Mcdonald Park with the splash pad. Everything is ordered for that, and that is being all funded through a grant. There'll be some other upgrades there along with the splash pad. We're looking at doubling the size of the shade structure there, and hopefully upgrading the bathrooms to ADA approved bathrooms.
And if you wanna look at drawings and stuff, that is available on the website.
Yeah.
That's just been updated to the new version.
And we'll talk a little more about geothermal. Jeff got most of it. The problem we're having there is it's a 22-year-old system, 20-year-old system. I'm not exactly sure the date that it started. But with the buildup in the lines, when we got our flows increased to about 112 gallons, 113 gallons a minute, it started breaking stuff loose in the lines. We started plugging. We spent quite a bit of money on the new filter system for that because the old system was basically at the end of its life. So we've upgraded the filter system. We have 2 brand new pumps sitting there that will not go in service until we get this plugging issue dealt with. It's plugging on the prison side and on our side. I'll be meeting with engineers on Thursday in Klamath to discuss this issue and figure out what our next direction is to move. We've got to get that cleared up because that is how the prison heats a majority of that prison.
And the schools, right?
This section does not affect the schools. So this is a different different system. So the schools and the hospitals not being affected, it's just the prison system, prison side of the system. So hopefully I'll have some more answers on Thursday afternoon when I get out of my meeting over in Klamath with the engineers over there of what direction we need to head. They're talking about pigging the pipe, which is, it's a process, basically it sounds funny, it's a process where they send a hard rubber ball basically through the pipe, it cleans the pipe, and we'll have to put what they call pigging stations in 2 or 3 spots within the line between the prison and us, and it goes through and it scrapes inside the pipe, cleans it. And then we'll have to do an evaluation of the pipe. If it is getting worn because of the age of the system, we may need to line that pipe in the near future. So that's kind of where we are with geothermal. And that's pretty much what I have.
Okay. Financial reports right there, I haven't had a chance to look at it. Does staff have any comments? Okay, council, anybody have any comments? Okay, I have one. At the chamber meeting this morning, the parklet will be put in front of the chamber.
Oh. I have an email from Ginger on that, and I haven't had time to get back to her yet, because I was out all last week and was trying to get caught up. And I'll be talking with Ginger tomorrow.
Yeah, they told me this morning it'll be put in front of the.
Perfect. She said she had a fix for the problem. I just haven't had time to call her back yet, and I'll be calling her tomorrow. And
Brandon McLean said she had brought it to the board to get it approved.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, nothing else?
Mr. Mayor? I just have a quick question. Is there any need to adjust our budget because of increases in fuel prices? I mean, we're all suffering from this, and the town must consume an awful lot of fuel.
When Michelle made that up at the beginning of the year, I brought that up. Before she even had the budget made, and I said, you need to increase the fuel prices, we talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's increased them enough, because how could you?
You couldn't know,
Okay.
but now it's bad, right?
We're going into budgeting now, so
Okay.
that will definitely be looked at.
Right now Sacramento's $8 a gallon.
How much?
$8
In California?
Sacramento.
Well, that way there won't be a big line when I go up to get gas.
Actually, I'll need a loan to fill your car up.
Bring your pink slip.
Exactly.
If hearing nothing else, then we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:21.